Welcome to the Listen to Your Footsteps podcast. I'm your host, Kojo Bafum, and this podcast is an extension of my book, also called Listen to Your Footsteps, which is a collection of essays, reflections, and poetry on things like fatherhood, identity and belonging, growing up, creativity, and the lessons learned. The purpose of this podcast is to gain insight and learn from the journeys that others have taken. I explore the worlds of art, culture, design, business, creativity, and life from the perspective of Africans who are contributing to the redefinition of the continent and who we are. So welcome to this episode of the Listen to Your Footsteps podcast. In prepping for this episode, it was very strange because I had an epiphany. When we're growing up, we spend lots of time with people. But in essence, we never really kind of have the conversations around where we're going or where we'd like to go. And the reason why I was grappling with this idea in preparing for this interview is that my guest is somebody that I actually grew up with. So he's an actor and a radio personality. And I have no idea how he got there. So today's episode is about figuring all of that stuff out. Welcome, Gaetano Kagwa.
Wow, what an intro, Coach. I'm also having an epiphany.
So my standard first question is usually, what did you want to be when you grow up? And then usually when I ask that question, I don't have an idea of what that person looked like. But I remember I know what you looked like when you were 10 years old. But I have no idea what it was that you wanted to do.
Yeah. Funny enough, at 10 years old, neither did I. I was busy running around with snot coming out of my nose, just being a 10-year-old, carefree, live to play every single day. I think maybe at about I would say about 13, 14. Then perhaps I started, and maybe even at 10, but I didn't know it at the time. Maybe at 14 there. Funny enough, I did enjoy watching a lot of movies, and I enjoyed that whole, these people are in a box and they seem to be just having the time of their lives. And I kind of gravitated towards that in the sense that I would like to do that, but I didn't understand what that was, if that makes any sense. And I even remember at one point when we were in Machabeng, which me and you were both in Machabeng Primary School. I even started I once directed a very small, in the time when camcorders were big, huge and massive, and you could record these funny small skits, and I used to do that. I used to do a lot of plays as well. So I was gravitating towards something I enjoyed, but not realizing it would end up being what I do, because I then went to university to do a degree in business, which I dropped after my first year because the maths was too hard. But yeah, so I think at that age I kind of gravitated towards it without realizing it. I just enjoyed it, and now I'm doing what I didn't know then I would do today, kind of thing.
Yeah, so let's take it a step back. I mean, so we both grew up in Masera, Lesotho. When did your family move there?
So my fam, Coach, that's going to give away my age, which you can already Google.
Dude, like both you and I are 50. What are you talking about? Like, why are you ashamed or afraid of your age? You're growing old, Chief. Like, it is what it is.
I'm a very young 50. You're an old 50. There's a difference.
Okay, that's all right.
So let's take it back to when I was 10 years old. I would say 1982. 1981, 82 is when I moved. My parents kind of went there before me and laid foundations. And then, 1981, 1982 is when I got there.
Yeah, because, the reason I asked that is like, there were a couple of us families
Mm,
from from outside that eventually settled. I don't know
mm.
if you remember Chicken Robert, and
Yes,
his
yes.
his family and my family more or less came over on the same plane.
Hmm, hmm.
And at some stage, I just remember you always being there, and you always being around,
Yes.
and never really knowing. Okay, when do these people actually get here?
Hmm, hmm.
Because it was also a very kind of different time in, I guess, the region's history, but also just in Lesotho's history, because by virtue of it being totally surrounded by a country that was totally oppressed.
Mm, 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 mm. Yeah, I think even when I got there, I did not realize, for example, originally I was born in Uganda. So, we left Uganda. From Uganda, we ran, literally, exiled into Kenya. And then my father decided, hey, I'm going to take a chance in Lesotho. So even when we got there, again, just like you're like, okay, this is where I am. And then you bump into these people and you don't know when they arrive, but they are there.
Mm.
There is another family from Uganda. You've got some Europeans who are there from the West. You got other African country, other African Africans rather to say in Lesotho, but you just don't know when they arrive. But there they are, and
Mm.
we just got along because that's what we did because there was no internet to confuse us. We had to get along. So yeah, I don't know. You're right.
So I remember you going to the US to go do your
Mm-hmm.
degree.
Mm.
So what prompted that? We're jumping around a little bit, I know, but
That's fine. That's fine.
you
That's fine.
what prompted you, like you're saying, we're in high school.
Mm-hmm.
First we're all at like MEMS, Maseri English Medium Preparatory School, and then we
Mm-hmm.
all moved to like Machebeng High School, which is now Machebeng College,
Mm-hmm.
um,
Mm-hmm.
and kind of navigating our way out of that. Um,
Mm-hmm.
and then I just remember you going off to the US for university.
Yeah, yeah. It was actually, and I called Machibeng Primary. I meant to say Machibeng High School. So my bad there. But you're right. What happened was after I finished Machibeng, because I did from one to from five. I think that's what it went to. Then from there was the International Baccalaureate.
Yeah.
Yeah, IB1 and IB2. So I had just finished IB2, and now I had this free time on my hands, and I thought, hey, I'm going to party. I'm going to have a good time. I've been studying, I've been reading hard. Now it's all about me and to help with everybody else. But of course, I can't play that because I need my father's money to party. I don't have
Mm.
that money. So I even remember after I came out, I'm busy having a good time, just chilling out, hanging with friends. And I remember getting on a bus with one of our late friends and family, Tsepo Mana.
Mm.
And we got on a bus to go to Cape Town because at the time,
The
another good friend of
brothers, yeah,
ours,
the
yes, the
brothers were
other
down
brothers
there.
were there.
Yeah.
Yes, so we went there to have a good time. And while I was there, my father calls me and says, by the way, you need to come back to Toronto immediately, ASAP. I'm like, what's going on? He says, listen, you've been accepted to the University of Wisconsin La Crosse. I'm like, what? Where? What is that? University? Where is that? And it's in the US. What turned out is that he had a very good friend who had managed to get one of my elder brother into University of Wisconsin La Crosse
Mm.
by virtue of the fact that my brother was didn't need to do the SATs, was good in English, he was highly placed in classes and subjects. So when my brother went there, it just kind of followed automatically that I should go there, according to my father. Your brother's in the US, he'll look after you. It's a good school. I've got somebody who's there, and you'll do your thing. So that's how I ended up going to a cheese dairy state called Wisconsin, and that's where I spent the next 4, 5, 6 years or whatever it was.
So you said you started with business,
Yes. Oh yes.
and
Oh
then
God.
well, having an African parent and I do know your father. What was that conversation like, first of all? And then what did you then do?
Oh my God. So there I am, first year. In the US, the terminology that's used is freshman. Then after freshman, it's sophomore. I forget the next. So after my freshman year, I was really struggling, Kojo. Hey, I was struggling. You know, when you wake up and you go to lectures and you're just miserable. It was cold. It was lonely in a sense because it was my first year, and I just didn't enjoy the classes. Lots of math. Business, you have to have maths, and then there was this course called calculus. I was doing so badly, man. I wanted to crawl under my I don't know, crawl under something and just be left alone. Um, so after battling with myself and just my conscience and my state of mind, I was like, I can't continue like this. I will, something will happen, something bad will happen, you know. So I picked up the phone, heart beating, palms sweaty, uh, and dove right in. I said, Dad, I got to talk to you. I spent my money. Most of the time I'll be like, Dad, why don't you call? Dad, why don't you call me? This time I called him. So that's when he knew it was serious. He said, what's going on? Are you all right? I'm like, Dad, everything's fine. School is all right, but I'm finding it very difficult. And I told him that I was not enjoying the the courses for this business admin degree. And he said, okay, so what do you want to do about it? So I think he thought he doesn't even know what he wants. He just doesn't want to do that. He doesn't know what he wants. But I kind of knew, I was like, I am more of an art student. You know, uh, I enjoy English. I enjoy, art, plays. I enjoy speaking. So I enjoy reading about countries and stuff like that. So he said, okay, you're saying many things, but what is it you want to do? And I said, I've been going through the available courses in my interests, and it looks like international studies is going to be the course I want to do. And he said, what is that? I said, Dad, I'll figure it out as I go along. It's learning about, different countries, and I took a minor in political science as well. So this whole thing of countries and policies and stuff like that, that's what I ended up doing. But the minute I did it, Kojo, the minute I took the course and I started the classes, everything turned around. I would go to school, the sun was shining, I could hear birds singing. I was happy. And I flourished because, I was hitting the dean's list, which which was shocking to me because I'm not a dean list kind of guy. But I was really doing well. And that's what I majored in: international studies, sorry, political science and international studies, my mind. And
Like,
that's what I did.
I guess it says a lot for, and it's interesting. I mean, like having children today, right?
Mm,
And so my son is turning 15 soon, but having the conversations around career and what you want to do with your life, and those conversations being slightly different from our time when we were growing up,
mm,
where I guess a lot more attention is put into what you're talking about, being able to do something that you feel vested in, because when
mhm,
you are vested, the
mm.
results speak for themselves. Whereas
Yes, yes.
we generally come from an era. I mean, my father didn't force me, but we come from an era where most of the people around us were told, "This is what you're
Mm.
going to study, and you're going to finish it." And if,
This
for
is very
example,
true.
if you're phoning home and saying, "Yo, this thing is not working for me," it's like, well, it doesn't matter. Make it work.
Hmm, hmm, hmm. And you're very right because when I left Lesotho to go to University of Wisconsin La Crosse, it was my dad who selected my major. He said, "You're going to do business administration." He's a businessman. He understands the world of business. That's what he does, and he was very good at it. So when it came time for me to go, I was still like, I don't know, I'm not sure. He's like, businessmen would do fantastic. So he chose my major. And I'm like, of course, this is my father. He knows what's best for me. I'm still getting my feet wet. So that's what I went and did. So making that decision to tell him, I mean, yeah, you're right. We grew from an era where it was like, man, how do I tell him? And even if I do tell him, you'll find a lot of students or young people who go to school, get the degree that their parents want,
Yeah.
give them the degree, and then say, now I'm going to go live my life and do what I want.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know what I mean? Yeah, yeah.
So, I mean, when did your... I'm trying to build a timeline for myself to a certain extent, right? Because I mean, the one thing that I personally am always grateful for your university, for you going to university in Wisconsin, is Scarface's The Diary. Because one holiday you came home with that CD, and it continues to be one of my favorite CDs to this day. Don't you remember? But I'm always grateful for your father sending you to America just for that one album.
Yes, you owe me, man. You still owe me.
But so the thing that was interesting, and I guess to a certain extent entertaining for me, was, you obviously went to the US. I went to Germany for a year, then I came back and we saw each other during holidays. And then around that time, I was at university in Durban. I think your family was also now transitioning back into Uganda. And then the one day I've moved back home, worked for a few years, left Maseru, now come to Joburg. And somebody sends me a message. I think it was the days of SMS with limited text. Somebody sends me a message and says, pick up the newspaper, but they don't tell me why. And so I pick up this newspaper and I'm flipping through it. And all of a sudden there's Gaetano on Big Brother. In my mind, Gaetano's still in America. And then all of a sudden there's Gaetano in the Star newspaper in Johannesburg.
Oh God! Oh my God! Let me tell you, Kojo. It's interesting how life plays itself out for you. It's like you got a deck of cards and you're playing a card game. Crazy Eight. I remember we used to play Crazy Eight, right? And you know how you're going to play the game, but then somebody plays something else, and then you have to change how you're going to play the game, what cards you're going to throw. And that's exactly what happened with Big Brother. I finished university in the US, went back to Lesotho, started working for my father. I was there for about 8-9 months, going to a year. And then I had the opportunity to go back to school because I wanted to do a law degree. So I was accepted to the University of Cape Town. Cape Town, my brother, Cape Town. At the last minute, after being accepted, getting a place, everything, I woke up one morning and I said, Dad, and he had already paid. I said, Dad, I don't want to go to the University of Cape Town. I want to go back to Uganda. And he's like, are you sure you haven't lived in Uganda for 18 years? Lived there. I said, let me take the chance. So my father then had to readjust things and call up friends to try and get me a place at the University of Makerere, which is here, one of the best universities. Cut a long story short, I come back here and I start, doing my law degree, and I got to as far as my third year. But then this Big Brother thing comes along, and my cousin tells me about it. We're in a bar one night drinking. And my cousin says, hey, let's go apply audition for this Big Brother thing. And I didn't know what it was. And I kind of forgot about it. But when I next saw him a few days later, he says, man, the auditions are going to end. We need to apply. We need to fill in the application form, whatever it is. So I went ahead and got it. And on one drunken Baba last morning, I went to hand it in and did this quick, hand it in. And I think it was because of my sort of laissez-faire Babalas recovery. I was very frank and very honest and very open. I was open. He asked me questions, and I was just being as honest as I could. And that was the beginning. And before I knew it, I went through all the stages of auditioning, and I was told, listen, you're going to be representing Uganda. And I remember being in the lecture hall when I got the news. I was in class. And again, like you said, those days of SMS, short messaging system. I get a message saying, Gaetano Kagwa, you have been chosen to represent Uganda in Big Brother Africa. I will give you a call later. And those, I'm paraphrasing, but that's pretty much what it said. And after that, whatever the lecturer was saying in front of me in the lecture class, that I couldn't hear a thing they were saying. Because I was like, what have I just done? What have I just gotten myself into?
And
And then the
the
rest.
irony being you're just back. I mean, basically you're back in Uganda finally. And after
Exactly.
18 years, and then all of a sudden you're representing Uganda.
Do you see what I'm saying? You're absolutely right. I've been 18 years out. I'm back 3 years, and now I'm representing Uganda in something called Big Brother Africa. It was like, whoa. But that's how it started.
What was that transition like? Like I guess immigrants often have similar experiences in terms of trying to figure out how or where one belongs.
Mm-hmm.
And this is something that I write about quite a bit, like in my book, where, like in Lesotho, I was Mosotho, but not Mosotho enough. In Ghana, I'm never Ghanaian enough. Right? In Germany, I'm not German enough, and in South Africa, I'm not South African. So, like my difficulty when I was younger was just kind of finding my space and finding my lane and being comfortable with it. Was it something that you had to contend with, particularly moving back to Uganda?
Yes, to an extent, you're absolutely right. When I was in Lesotho, I was, and I think you know the phrase, I was a mukwere kwere, an outsider and all of that. And I was fine with it because indeed I was a mukwere kwere. Lesotho is not my country. I grew up there. I have the soil in my fingernails, and I have friends there. So and I love going back to Lesotho. But after 17 years of not living, or 18 years of not living in your birth country,
And
it does have
and the most formative 18 years. It's not just
yes,
18 years.
exactly, the formative years. So going back was extremely difficult. I remember going to that university, Makerere University, and it was my first year. I have just been living in Lesotho. I've got my first degree in the US. In the US, I had a job, I had a car, I had an apartment, and now I'm taken back to this place which I love so much. And I'm taken back, and I go to this university, and I'm sleeping in a room where the toilets are leaking. I've got rooms with broken windows. I've got all kinds of things. I'm carrying a fork to the lunch hall. I'm carrying my own. Mug, glass, whatever it is for water. Then I'm thinking to myself, what have I done? I don't know places. People are kind of, I know my family members and cousins, but it was extremely difficult. I won't lie to you. It was hard, but hey, I was not about to put my tail between my legs and go running back to my father. I said, I'm going to stick it out. And I'm very thankful I did. In fact, the best decision I ever made was to come back to Uganda.
Why'd you say that?
Because when I was thinking about it, I kept thinking, all of my peers, my age mates back in Uganda, my cousins, family members, are doing things for themselves. I kept hearing good things. Remember, this is back in the late 90s. I'm hearing nothing but good things. Uganda was coming out of perhaps the worst HIV and AIDS pandemic sort of situation, and they were doing such a good job about it, fighting the stigma, speaking openly, testing. You get what I'm saying? We were doing really well.
Yeah.
Museveni did a fantastic job.
Yeah.
So I'm thinking to myself, I'm hearing stories of my brothers and sisters and cousins who are doing fantastic things in Uganda. And I said to myself, if I don't go now, by the time I do decide to go back, if I ever do, I'm going to be so far behind. It will be so difficult. And yet, the old adage goes, east or west, home is best.
Mm.
So that's what drove me and said, listen, I have to stay, I have to make it work. And that's why it was the best decision I ever made.
That's dope. You are listening to the Listen to Your Footsteps podcast, a podcast in which I chat to Africans from a cross-section of society and sectors, including art, culture, design, business, and creativity, to name a few. I delve into their journeys, the decisions they've taken to get to where they are, how they do what they do, and everything in between. Essentially, we go wherever the conversation takes us. Let's talk about the transition. We won't get into the details of Big Brother. I think those are on the internet and on YouTube, and they've been documented enough. But what did Big Brother do for you in terms of thinking around career, or thinking around what you're going to do next? Because it from the outside, it really feels like the after Big Brother was that transition into the media space. So it does feel like that gave you a bit of a springboard into that space.
It absolutely did. Um, After Big Brother Africa, which was, by the way, the very first Big Brother Africa, they
Yeah.
subsequently gone and done several, but it was the very first one. So I came out of the Big Brother house. I didn't win, but I think it was the fact that I didn't win that kind of gave me a hunger. I was the fifth last person out, so I finished fifth. But when I came back, the welcome from brothers and sisters and family and Uganda at large, people I didn't even know, the reception I got was overwhelming. So I get back, and I haven't won Big Brother Africa, but I'm like, maybe this is a good thing because now the hunger is there. If I had won, I might have slept on my laurels of, hey, I'm a Big Brother Africa winner. But because I didn't, I was sort of left to my own devices, trying to still figure things out. And I was partying initially. I was going out to places because people wanted to see Gaetano or be seen with Gaetano or be in the same space as Gaetano. I met the president. The president asked for me, asked for an audition, not audition, an audience with me. And I was flown to an airbase. I was flown to an army airbase where he was at the time. I'm not flown, I was driven. We met the president with some other Big Brother housemates and then flown back in a helicopter. And I'm doing all of these things and I'm meeting all of these. I mean, by the time you met the president, I mean, that's like the epitome. That's like, but I was also meeting all of these other very high to do businessmen and businesswomen. And I was in that circle. And then somebody told me, Gaetano, this is what you need to be doing. These meetings that you're having or these opportunities, you need to start laying the groundwork. If you're going to go for a party, don't just go for a party because you're making yourself accessible. You want to make yourself semi-accessible. So by the time somebody meets you and says, man, I met Gaetano. But if you're everywhere, then you're nowhere. So you need to be very careful how you do this. So I stepped back, reassessed, and started using all of these opportunities to meet or to be in the presence of, such people to my opportunity. Hey, so when I met the president, he said, listen, would you like to, you should be doing something to talk to people about HIV and AIDS. And I started working with UNAIDS. I started flying around, moving around the country with the president, talking about HIV and AIDS, as an ambassador. And then I meet these other business people and be, listen, we've got this new, we're rolling out this new ad space for a new system or new service. Can you be the face? So I started doing all of these things. And then I got a call from South Africa. So as I'm doing all of these things, I get a call from South Africa saying, listen, there's a new show called Studio 53. It's a Pan-African show about fashion, cuisine, people, and et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And they wanted me to be a presenter, not the host, but a presenter on the show. So, and then I got into that. But as soon as I had my foot in the door, Kojo, I was listening. I was taking notes mentally, asking questions. How do you do this? How do you do that? Why like this? Why not like that? And slowly but surely, I started growing in confidence in that space of entertainment. And then from Studio 53, radio came along, from radio, series, from series, emceeing events and functions. So that's how I got my foot in.
What were you doing in Kenya? I remember pitching up in Nairobi the one day, and there you were.
So in Kenya, I had left Uganda. I'd recently gotten married, and my wife is based in Kenya. So I moved to Kenya, and I was doing a breakfast show on one of the top radio stations in Nairobi, Capital FM, which I did for about a year, and then I left and I went to another media house and started doing directing and producing, for television. So that's what I was doing there. I was there for about 4 years. And then I got enticed back to come back to Uganda and continue doing radio here. So then I came back after 4 years in Kenya. Yeah.
I'm always entertained. I mean, the beauty of the internet today is that we don't have to be in a particular space, in a particular territory to be able to experience certain things, and by virtue of or by virtue of like internet and social media, I think for Gaetano and Lucky, you have a lot more viewers or listeners than are sitting in Nairobi. How long have you been doing that, and what's the evolution of that show been like?
So it's been very interesting. The breakfast show that I've been doing now for the last 4 or 5 years with Lucky, my co-host, is when I came back, the internet wasn't always there. First of all, radio wasn't always the way radio is nowadays. Radio is theater of the mind. Radio is about engaging somebody and making them feel good, just listening to your voice and what you're saying, telling them a story. All right, that's the power of radio. And in Africa, and I speak specifically maybe for Uganda, radio is still very, very, very powerful, especially upcountry. Nowadays, people have so many choices because of the internet. You can be doing a podcast like we're doing now, or you could, listen to any radio station in the world because of the small device. But in Uganda, the power of radio is such that a lot of people upcountry do not have, social media or access to the internet as much as you think they do. It's only a select few.
Yeah, it is a continental thing. I mean, radio still in this country, radio still continues to lead, be the most engaged with medium.
Absolutely. But having said that, we went from just having radio the way we do it, you just speak and you are the first point of information because they tune in to get the information from you. And nowadays, you get onto your phone or your laptop or whatever, you get the information in a microsecond. So whereas before we were the information givers, now we're just sort of finding our niche. What information can we tell them that they already know in a different way? So when I came back from Uganda, from Kenya, me and Lucky were doing an afternoon drive show. So, it was laid back, you had a long day at work, let's just, take it nice and easy. And then, through fate, we got promoted to do the breakfast show. And we said, listen, everybody is going to try and talk about serious things and politics here and there. And, that. We said, you know what? We can touch on that every once in a while, but let's just make ours as fun and as happy as possible. Let's laugh as much as we can because people wake up, they've got a long day ahead of them. They're going to be stressed. They're going to be having a hard time. So we'll give them nuggets of information, but let's make them happy when they wake up. And because of the internet, we have been able to transition ourselves and say, we've got the radio aspect of it, but what can we do on Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, My Talk, That Talk, What Talk, whatever it is nowadays that's out there. You know what I mean? So we did a dance video once purely for our own entertainment and we put it out over there. And the response we got was overwhelming. So we said, okay, let's do another one. And before we realized it, we're like, man, these small little tidbits of jokes or laughter or a moment to get down and lucky in 2 or 3 minutes or a dance video really grabs the attention of the viewer or the listener. So we started doing those more and more and trying to make them as entertaining as possible. And somebody will not have even listened to the show on radio, but they say, I know Lucky and Gaetano because I see them on social media. And they may then gravitate to the show or gravitate to other platforms where we're putting these things out. And your objective has been achieved. So that's how we did it.
What does the future look like for you? I mean, do you worry about that? Do you sit and kind of go, this is what I'm doing next, and this is what I'm doing next, or what's the approach you take to all of this? I mean, particularly being in the media, which is, I mean, I'm also in the media space, but it's like after the music industry, I consider it one of the most disrupted spaces, and we still actually don't know what the future is gonna look like, because we don't know what next month sometimes is gonna look like.
Mm. To be honest, that's the space I am. I don't know. I mean, I'd love to continue. The good thing about radio is that you can do radio for a lifetime, for a lifetime. And the space that we're in right now, again, going back to this digital space, I don't know what's going to happen tomorrow. Something else might come along and try to disrupt the natural order of things, so to speak. So I just keep telling myself, hold on to this as long as possible. Have fun while you're doing it, most importantly, because they say if you enjoy what you do, you'll never work a day in your life. So the radio continues, the acting continues. I do a lot of. I've got my own show coming up very soon called The Last Round, where me and my friend are going to be doing this YouTube thing. So, and I've also opened up like two bars and restaurants with some friends and family. So, I've told myself, should this finish here on this digital space, I can always fall back to, the bar and restaurant industry, or you know, my show that I end up doing by myself and my friend. So I've tried to cover the spaces or have a plan B or plan C. But as far as radio is concerned, and even if radio ends, hey, there's podcasts that we just talked about, like we're doing right now. You can create your own shows and then go out over there and create or get your own sponsors or advertisers or whoever it is. Because the youth of today and the younger generation, and our generation, people have tapped into it, are making so much mad money out of this. You can sit at home and become a millionaire as long as you have access to the internet to be able to grab an audience. So I'm not too worried.
Or as they say, from your lips to God's ears, because I'm still waiting for money for this podcast.
Yeah, well said. Well said.
and I see you very quietly, indirectly, still following the old man's footsteps. Because now all of a sudden you're opening businesses.
Yes, exactly. It's come full circle. I hadn't thought of that.
I'm curious how your relationship with, for example, your father has evolved as you've gotten older.
Wow.
Because that was something that was something
Mhm.
that was something that was very interesting for me, reflecting on after the old man passed away. But I remember seeing something where you're going to visit him on something, or dropping something
Yeah.
off, and
Yes.
just remembering him then, and kind of going,
Mhm.
it's interesting, our relationships with our parents, especially our fathers.
Kojo, may Tate Frank Bafo continue resting in peace. Your father. I loved him very much. He was such an amazing man. Um, and you talk about my father. Interestingly enough, as I speak right now, I'm at my father's house. I came to visit him, and have some lunch with him. Um, and seeing how our parents, what they've gone through to what they went through to give us the best that we can have, and where they are now, I won't say yesteryears, but older, much older. I've got brothers and sisters who are always checking in on him, but I'm the one who's here with another one of my brothers on ground. And I get busy. I get very busy. And there are times, it can be a week, it can be 2 weeks where I don't see him, but I try and talk to him at least on the phone. And I say to myself, we've lost so many fathers and mothers. I lost my mother when I was still in Lesotho back in 2000. She was living in the UK at the time. And I miss her every single day. I have a picture of her on my phone. So every time I switch my phone on, I see my mother. But I was like, at least with my father, even though I'd love to be with him 24/7, I can't. So I'm going to try and get those moments and make them so enjoyable. So, I cut my own hair. He asked me, can you start cutting my hair? I was like, hey, dude, no problem. I started cutting my father's hair. I had never touched my father's head ever in my life.
Yeah.
Never. But here I
That's
am caressing
that's
his
so
head
that's
and
so
cutting
true,
his hair.
man.
Do you know what I mean? I mean,
Yeah.
in a million years, the last time I touched my father's head is when I was a child, probably a baby. But so there I am holding his head, caressing it and tilting it as I cut his hair. Kojo, yo. Next thing, I'm sitting outside on the veranda having a braai or a barbecue because he's inviting me over. Then I got COVID-19 and he brought food to me every single day.
I remember I remember seeing that was the video
Yeah.
I saw where you took a video of him from
Yes.
inside with him
Yes.
bringing food over.
Exactly. So I'm lapping up these moments. I'm just marinating in them. I'm soaking them in because I know my father's not going to be here forever. And it's the natural order of things and the life cycle. So it's me and my father's relationship. We are friends. I talk to him in a manner that's very respectful, but we joke, we argue, we laugh. I throw cracks and ribs at him. He throws them back at me. We get upset with each other, and it's such a beautiful thing. And I'm going to just hold on to it as long as I can.
Yeah, it's funny because like especially those of us who have had African fathers who traveled. So
Mm.
my father, I remember always used to say, when he turns 55, we can all call him Frank. And he turned 55, and it's like, dude, it's not happening. Like you're my father, you're my father. Like
Yeah.
we can be great, and we can have a great relationship. We can be friends to a certain extent, but at the same
Mm,
time, you are still
mm,
you're still my father.
mm,
And
mm,
the I'm always going to give the respect of calling you daddy or papa or
mhm,
whatever
mhm,
whatever whatever language I use, whatever
mhm,
word I
mhm,
use.
mhm. Yeah, you're absolutely right. I mean, my dad will always be my dad. And like I said, I'll give him that respect. I do my own thing, but I mean, I'm very sure if he said, "Hey, you jump," and you say, "How high do you want me to jump?" I mean,
Yeah,
he
yeah.
he still commands that father respect, and I give it to him. But he's allowed me to enter a space, or we've managed to create a space where we laugh and we joke, and I hug him. He gives me. My father is still the same dad, Kojo, who's full of jokes and laughter. The father
Yeah.
that you remember, he's still the same person, and I love that about him.
I think you've grown up to appreciate it.
Absolutely.
I always say that I'm grateful for having had my father around long enough for me to
Mm-hmm.
reach the age where I understood. I
Mm-hmm.
understood him. Well, I understood that he was not perfect, that he was
Yes.
flawed, but he was
Mm.
a perfect father for me.
Mm-hmm. I couldn't have said it. Yeah.
Flaws and all, but it's like, yo, he was perfect for me.
Mm. I think you've encompassed everything in those few words absolutely 100%. My father is not 100% perfect. Nobody is. He's got his flaws. He's got his chink in his armor. He's got his Achilles heel. And it's only as you grow older that you understand them, but you know that for me as a child growing up, he did everything right for what he needed for that time and as a father. And then, you grow up and oh my God, he messed up here. Oh my God, he messed up there. And you're like, hey, but I'm doing exactly the same thing. I am not perfect. So who am I to judge my father? Because I have my chinks and my chinks as well.
And
So
the irony is
yes,
when you
you're
have
right.
the irony is also when you have siblings, because each one of
Mm,
us each one of us needs to go through that discovery, like from our personal
absolutely.
perspective. Even though you all grew up, like you'll grow up in the same house or you'll grow up together, you'll have the same parents, but
Mm,
each one of you needs to figure this out for themselves.
mhm, hmm 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 And as you do that, you as children, siblings, but as children of this person, you have a greater understanding and appreciation for that person. You know, and you're right. Each one of us has to go through their own journey to understand that, and I think we all have.
So what else?
Mm.
What else is going on in your world
Ah, no, man.
as
Just
we close up?
well, we live in strange times now, Kojo. Yes, there's a war, there's a frigging virus running around, there's economies crashing. This is, I mean, I just don't understand where we are as human beings, and I'm also just trying to survive. The cost of petrol is ridiculous. I brought my motorcycle, and I know you're a bike rider too. I brought my 250 Yamaha off road out of the garage the other day. It's being fixed, and I bought this gear so that I can ride my motorcycle anytime during the day when it's raining and all of that because I can't afford fuel anymore.
so
You know?
actually, so I need to change my tire. And I was having this conversation with myself last week that I need to take the
Mm.
bike in because the way the way the petrol price has just gone up.
Yes,
I need to get back to moving around on the bike.
yes, man. I mean, it's unfortunate that we have to do this, but it is what it is. As we try to figure out what tomorrow brings, because every day the most craziest of things are happening around the world, and even though it's happening thousands of miles away, it's affecting the entire world. So that's what I'm trying to do, man. Just keep head above water. I'm working on a new project. There's a small series that I got involved in where I am one of not the predominant actors, but I have a role. So that's going to be coming out for television here on the DSTV sort of channels. So I'm having a great time doing that, and yeah, just keep on moving forward, so to speak.
But
Yeah.
thank you very much.
No.
We're very proud of the shit that you've done, and
Thanks.
we continue to watch it. And it's also just, what I find just kind of really dope is
Mm,
we I think we grew up in an era and in a space where we're kind of just sitting all over the place. And
mm,
it's been interesting watching how each one of us becomes grown up, even though
mm,
none of us ever thought we'd get here.
mm,
But it's interesting kind of watching all of us become grown ups and do stuff with
mm,
our lives.
mm, mm, mm.
Um, and so
Absolutely.
and so it's been what I've been watching you. That's why I said I was trying to plug in the gaps because I was seeing different things, but not
Mm,
understanding the transitions. Because
mm.
if we're going to be honest, we were too busy partying to find out what we wanted to do with our lives.
This is so true, man, and I'm going to continue partying as I continue figuring out my life. You know, this space that we live in, especially this digital era, these they've got it so good, but at the same time, I see myself in this on the phone, on my laptop, so much that we forget what's out there, the real world. You don't get ingrained and dirty enough in that sense. And it's kind of sad but good in the sense that hey, we have opportunities which are we were never sort of privy to at the time. And I just it's good to be in this space and just see how things are different and hopefully they figure it out. But it's been a good ride,
Yeah, man.
you know. So yeah.
Thanks.
One more thing.
Yeah,
One more
yeah,
thing. Sorry, Koji. I know you're a big bike fan, and I know you watch SBK.
yeah.
But I just want to stick it in your face that Jonathan Ray he ain't good enough, man. You got to watch out for my man on the Yamaha and the Ducati,
But
Alvaro
but
Bautista, or whatever his name is. But
I'm a Bautista fan. Like I was always very
wait a minute.
I was always,
No, I told you a Jonathan Ray fan.
nah, I was always very disappointed that Bautista never realized his potential when he was in MotoGP.
Yeah.
He was always kind of like there, but
Mm.
he just never made that step up. And then, so I watched this last weekend,
Yeah. Me
and
too.
I stopped watching when he fell. Literally, literally, I was just like, It's a waste of this is a waste of my time and energy because he threw it away last time as well.
This is very true. This is very true, and at the same course, the same circuit as well.
Yeah.
So, but this is going to be a very interesting one. So I guess we're on the same side.
Yeah. Well, I've always been more of a MotoGP person, so the SPK I catch every now and then.
To be honest with you, SBK is more exciting. I love MotoGP, but for some reason, SBK seems to have just a bit more overtakes because there's three top riders who always mix it up. Whereas these other guys, I mean, don't get me wrong, MotoGP is great and I love it, but it is what it is.
So the bike's got some free advertising from both of us.
Yes, they did. I didn't even realize that. No, but it's been fantastic.
Cool, my man. We'll chat again soon.
Thank you so much, Coach Buffo.
All right.
Stay well.
Peace. The Listen to Your Footsteps podcast is produced by Zebra Culture. If you have ideas of what we can do better, people you'd like us to have a conversation with, or would just like to share a thought, you can email me on info@zebraculture.com. To check out past episodes, go to kojobuffer.com/podcasts. And if you enjoyed this episode, please share with a friend. If you'd like to get a copy of the book, Listen to Your Footsteps, check out kojobuffer.com/book. There are details on the various spaces it's available at. I'd also appreciate it if you could leave a review or comment wherever you listen to your podcasts. Finally, there's the Zebra Culture by Kojo Buffer newsletter where on a weekly basis, I share a curated list of articles, playlists, videos, etc. that have caught my attention. Thank you for listening. I hope you enjoyed listening to the conversation as much as I enjoyed having it.